Primitive caveman brain just wants to stay in the cave where it's safe. Don't put yourself out there. Don't take risk. Don't rock the boat. And so when primitive caveman brain is in charge, we're stuck. Primitive caveman brain does not have any willpower. And what he does is actually exhaust your willpower all day, every day, because your primitive caveman brain, it's all about the quick fix, the short-term solutions to long-term problems.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Our guest today is a global speaker, coach, author, and organizational consultant on physiology and chemistry as it relates to resiliency, confidence, performance, and women's leadership. She's highly experienced, having worked with thousands of C-suite executives, leaders, and employees from corporations, associations, and universities across the globe. She has also spoken on the TED stage, quoted on national public radio, in health magazines, and women's health well-being showcased on various major publications. And she's here today to empower you to optimize your own chemistry, to boost your performance and productivity, to up-level your happiness, energy, and success. So ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the founder of Soul on Fire, the one and only Jenny Evans. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Joyan, I'm so excited. I cannot wait for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. So let's dive right into it. I know you talk about stress a lot, and of course it affects our productivity and performance. So let's talk about stress, because I've been feeling pretty stressed lately. So let's talk about it. Now, so you talk about stress being a chemistry problem before it's a psychology or mindset problem. So what do you mean by that? Talk to us about that.
Yes. So while so many of us think that stress is just something that happens in our heads and that, we suck at using cognitive behavioral techniques to manage our stress and we should just be able to think our way out of it. But the reality is that stress immediately starts as a chemical event. Your body's pumping out adrenaline and cortisol, and what this does is it puts your primitive caveman brain in charge. And your primitive caveman brain only has two skills. Number one, to be highly reactive, no thought, logic, or reasoning, and to be highly emotional and specifically negative, pessimistic, fear-based, the pessimist, always focusing on the problem instead of the solution. So I think a big part of why so many people struggle with stress is if you're only addressing it from a psychological perspective, all you're doing is treating the side effects of the chemical changes. So what I do is teach people that you have to first optimize your chemistry and your physiology, and then you can optimize your psychology.
So how do we optimize our physiology and what is the other one? Chemistry.
Your psychology.
Psychology. Yeah. How do we do that?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to back up just a little bit. So I've been doing this for over 30 years, and my background is exercise physiology and performance psychology. So I really use a three-part framework, and that is it starts with body science, then we focus on soul science, and then we focus on the brain science. Because starting with the body science, the changes in chemistry that happen with stress, change, the unknown, even good stress in our lives, Joyan, like getting a promotion, going up for a new job, getting married, having a baby, that creates stress. And it also that affects our confidence, our resilience, our energy, our sleep. So one of the places that I always start with people is let's get things cleaned up physically. And the number one way to rid your body of cortisol, the biggest stress hormone, is through what I call a microburst. So biologically, we're still hardwired to respond to stress with our fight or flight response. Fighting and fleeing. That is a short microburst of intense physical activity. And when we get that microburst, it burns off the cortisol and it actually triggers the production of things like endorphins and endocannabinoids and human growth hormone and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which neutralize those stress hormones, and they bring our body and brain back to a state of balance. And so with a microburst, what my research has shown is that those chemical changes happen after just 30 to 60 seconds of intense physical activity. So you're having a stressful day, things are crazy. If you can step away, shut the door, if you're working from home, go into the bedroom, go outside, do something that elevates your heart rate or challenges your muscles for 30 to 60 seconds. And that is going to instantly change your chemistry. It's going to get that primitive caveman brain that's just emotional and reactive out of the driver's seat so that you can actually access prefrontal cortex. Now we've got logic, we've got reasoning, we've got joy, we have a sense of purpose. So one of the most important things is we got to change our chemistry, and a microburst is one of the fastest, most effective ways to do that.
So does this mean that we should step away to do an intense physical exercise whenever we feel stressed, or should we be doing it every day as a preventive practice against stress or even burnout?
Okay, so every time cortisol is produced in your body, so every time you experience stress, cortisol is produced.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long-lasting hormone. So it will stay in your body for up to 3 hours. So I get it. You're in a stressful meeting. You're not all of a sudden going to, stand up, kick your chair back and start doing jumping jacks. But as soon as that meeting is over, find a way to get that short burst of physical activity. Go up a flight of stairs. Do some jumping jacks, do some push-ups, find a hill in your neighborhood that you can walk up that gets your heart rate up. So yeah, you can't always literally do it right in that moment, but you've got 3 hours, and you can also preemptively do this if you know that you're headed into a tough conversation, a period of negotiation. That anticipation is creating stress. And those stress hormones are already coursing through the body. So walking into a high stress situation, if you do a microburst ahead of time, you're going to have optimized your chemistry. So as far as when's the best time to do a microburst? Anytime you possibly can. So you can do it proactively. You can do it reactively. You could set your phone to say, okay, mid-morning, I'm going to set a reminder, do 3 microbursts. Over the lunch hour, I'm going to do 2 microbursts. So that throughout the day, you're resetting your chemistry, because all day, every day, that stress button is being hit and triggered, and that cortisol just continues to build and build and build throughout the day if you don't hit that reset button.
Wow, how about good stress? Since you mentioned it, does good stress also trigger the release of cortisol, or does it produce a different hormone?
Yeah. And it's funny, okay, so with my background in exercise physiology and performance psychology, Joyan, I'm always so fascinated by how our brain and our body work. And I think there's ways that we think our body should work, and then there's the actual science and biology of it. And when you really start understanding, oh, here's how my brain is actually hardwired. Here's how my body is hardwired. You start to better understand it. So when we talk about like good stress, or even a lot of change happens to us completely outside of our control, which is really stressful. But there's a lot of changes that we try to create for ourselves. So maybe you might be saying, you know what? I've got to get better sleep, or I got to start exercising, or I've got to set aside, discrete family time and no work. There's the rational part of your brain that understands the benefit of change. But to that primitive caveman brain loves habit and routine because there's a sense of safety and predictability and control. So any type of change, even change that we know is good and that we initiate ourselves, can and often does trigger the stress response because it's different. It's requiring more energy. So now the brain can't just rely on habit and routine. So what that does is it conserves mental energy. You don't have to think so much about what you're doing or why. When you're trying to practice a new behavior or a new way of thinking, that's really energy expensive from a cognitive perspective, and it requires a lot of work. And the primitive caveman brain is very lazy.
Yeah.
He's all about how do we conserve energy?
Yeah, I love that. So what is the first step? Since our brain, resists change, and which is why I believe mindset doesn't really work, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
so hard to change your brain, right? So what would you say is the one powerful way to help our brains process changes, or like to adopt new habit faster? Is there a way or a tip that you can share with us?
Yes. Okay, so what I shared was a micro burst,
Right.
and that's one of a suite of many micro strategies that I have. The reason why I shrink everything down into a micro strategy is that anytime you try to change something too much, too soon, that triggers the stress response. And now primitive caveman brain wants to hold on to habit and routine. So you have to shrink the change down to make it so easy that a dumb primitive caveman could do it. So let's just say, I know a lot of us struggle with health and well-being, and rational part of the brain is like, okay, I got to start going to bed early. I got to start exercising 8 days a week. I have to eat super clean. It's too much change. Pick one thing and make it so easy, it seems completely ridiculous. Where you're like, why would I even do that? It's so silly. That's just not even a change. That's exactly what you have to do. You have to sneak it past primitive caveman brain who doesn't like change. So instead of, I'm going to exercise every day, I'm going to eat completely healthy, I'm going to, all of these things, it might just be, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water when I wake up in the morning. And your brain's like, hey, that's not a hard thing to do. You start this habit of, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water every morning. Then what you can do is you can expand it. Okay, I'm also going to drink a glass of water at lunch instead of that Diet Coke. Okay, all right, now I did that. Now maybe I'm going to set an alarm to go to bed 15 minutes earlier than I normally do. So they have to be these doable, easy things. Otherwise, our brain is hardwired to resist it.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so what is the difference between managing stress and metabolizing it? Because managing stress can be meditation. That's one thing I can think of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you have shared is really to metabolize our stress hormones. So can you talk to us about the difference between managing it and really like dissolve stress?
Yeah. So again, with my background in exercise physiology and performance psychology, what I've seen and what the science shows is cognitive stress management techniques can be effective. However, in high stress situations, primitive caveman brain takes over and we just become emotional and reactive. We don't have access to the prefrontal cortex where meditation techniques, where deep breathing techniques, where visualization techniques come from. We can't even access that part. So I'm saying this is a yes and. Do a microburst, change your chemistry, get access to the prefrontal cortex, and then you can use things like meditation, breathing, visualization. But what research shows, and this is why I really wanted to be on your podcast, Joyan, is purpose is essential for resilience. And that it's so important that we are clear on our values and our beliefs and our sense of purpose, because when we think about our values and beliefs, when we write about it, when we have conversations about it, this also changes our chemistry. Now the brain is producing GABA, endorphins, and what these hormones do is they make us feel happy and fulfilled and extroverted and goal-oriented and productive. These are the chemicals of confidence and resilience and fulfillment and joy. Because ultimately, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, of joy really comes from a sense of feeling fulfilled, creating a sense that what you do matters, that what you do makes a difference. I mean, as humans, we are meaning-making creatures. And anytime we're doing things not related to meaning and purpose, that's what creates so much stress when we're just running and going and we're checking the boxes and we're doing the things that society tells us makes us feel successful, but yet we're empty. And we're thinking, I should be feeling happier. I should be feeling more joy. I've checked all the boxes. Why do I still feel like something's missing? A lot of times it's that connection to your sense of purpose. And what I do is break it down into what I call micro beliefs, because getting clear on your purpose for a lot of people, is really stressful because they think, I don't know, and I don't know how to figure it out. Nobody's ever told me before. Is it this big thing? Is it this little thing? Also, our sense of purpose can and does change throughout various stages of our lives. So what I do is I take this big kind of overwhelming thing and I just break it down into some simple questions to start creating clarity on values, beliefs, purpose, which then leads to resilience, energy, grit, passion, joy.
I love that. I love everything you just said, and I totally agree. Of course, like joy comes from knowing who you are, having a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, that you belong, Yeah, so true, so true. And I also love how you do everything in micro, like mini buckets. So for example, like micro belief, micro values, even micro joy, that's something that I come up with after talking.
Yes.
Yeah, like, do something that makes you happy, like every day, right? I believe that's something that...
And it just can be a little thing. Don't make it a heavy lift. Don't overcomplicate it.
Right.
We love to do that. Just stop overcomplicating things.
Yeah. How about micro belief? Since you mentioned it, like for people who feels overwhelmed just by the question of what is my purpose, what should I be doing? If I hate my job, I don't know what should I be doing. like what is one micro belief they can borrow from others, or even start a question they can start asking themselves?
Yeah. And I will say, okay, so I have a fun one to share, but I will also say this is a process. It's not something that you just figure out instantly. It's taking little bites and just investing a little bit of time and effort and energy into this on a daily basis. But just here's a fun question to help people get some clarity. Okay, if you could take only 10 values with you into a strange and possibly dangerous environment, which ones do you absolutely need to have with you? Again, don't make this really hard. Do this. Go online and Google or ask ChatGPT. Give me a list of potential values and just start reading through the list. What resonates with you? What's important? Like what jumps out at you? I'm always about, you don't have to make this a heavy lift. How do you make this as easy as possible? Look at a list of potential values, what resonates, and then just kind of start narrowing it down. And here's another sort of filter to pass things through is that sometimes we get in the trap of picking values aspirationally. But values are how you are currently living your life on a daily basis. So there's a lot of clues that you can follow. Go look at your bank statement and your credit card statement. Where are you investing your financial resources? Go back and look at your calendar. What have you prioritized? What are you investing your time and energy into? Those are your values. So there's sometimes when we realize some things about ourselves where we're like, wow, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, my values are not spending 3 hours on social media. My values are not sitting on that couch watching Netflix for 2 hours every night. Or if I say I value my health, but I look at my calendar, I haven't worked out all week. What does that say?
Yeah. So when that happens, one day when we wake up and realize I'm not living, my values, what should we do? What is
Okay,
the micro step that
yeah,
we can?
yeah. Here's a micro step. You micro journal. Journaling, I think sometimes people are like, oh, this is like so touchy-feely, kumbaya. But there's so much great research on the positive benefits of journaling, that it actually improves your resilience, it boosts your immunity, it reduces stress-related doctor visits, it improves your memory. But what I love most about journaling, and I'm talking about micro, like set your alarm 5 minutes early and just spend 5 minutes journaling, but it's really about increasing awareness about your thoughts and your actions. And okay, so journal. If I could only take 10 values with me, which would I take? Or doing just a little assessment like, okay, here's what I would love for my values to be. You could come up with your values list and then say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10 in the past 30 days, how much time, energy, and effort have I actually invested in these values? And when we see if there's a disconnect, then there's an opportunity to say, okay, what's one micro shift that I could make today that I'm going to invest my time, energy, or resources more in alignment with what I value and what I believe. And I don't think we should necessarily think like it's going to be easy to get on track really fast. Like these are slow changes that have happened over time. And I think the best way to get on track is just one or two very simple, intentional things that are easy to practice on a daily basis.
Yeah. But how do we make it stick? How do we make a habit stick? Because even it happens to me before, I started reading every morning instead of looking at my phone, and for 3 days, I'm back to my
Yeah.
phone. So how do we make it stick?
Okay. So once you have your values figured out, then you can take it like a step further to expand these into your beliefs, and your values and your beliefs create your sense of purpose. And really, there are so many things in our lives that we know we should be doing, or we want to be doing, or we're supposed to be doing, but we're not doing it for some reason. And a lot of times it's because we haven't truly connected that desired behavior to our sense of purpose. I'm going to give you an example. I have had this story for years, and I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, Joyan. My story is I really suck at sales. I hate doing sales. I don't like making sales calls. I will procrastinate. I will do anything besides make sales calls. And I just realized, I'm like, this is such a limiting belief. And so what I do is I actually have my top 10 beliefs, which create my sense of purpose, on a piece of paper that sits where I can see it. And so this whole idea of, I know I need to be making sales calls, but I don't want to, I'm going to read my number one belief. I believe in taking risk, trying new things, and continuing to learn and grow. Joyan, when I read that, and I'm like, me telling myself that I'm not good at sales or I can't do it is such a bunch of crap. My strongest belief is that I love learning new things. I like taking risk. I love to push the envelope. And so what I've done is connected doing sales to, this is just a skill that I need to learn. Yeah, it's making me uncomfortable, but I love learning things that make me uncomfortable and give me that kind of that shot of adrenaline and making me feel alive. One of my other beliefs is I believe that connection is what makes life feel rich, meaningful, and alive. And what is sales? It's creating relationships. It's creating connection. When we create the connection between a desired behavior and our values and our beliefs and our sense of purpose, that's some of the most powerful energy that we possess as human beings. And when those things are aligned, creates so much joy and happiness and fulfillment instead of feeling stuck and feeling shame or guilt. Like, why can't I just get it together? Why can't I just start doing what I want to be doing? Connecting it to that higher part of yourself is a good way to start moving forward.
I love that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start creating that list as well. That piece of paper where I can see it often. I think that's gonna be so powerful, right? And you have said that there's secret to unlocking our best life decisions. What is, perhaps you have shared it, I am not sure, but if you haven't shared it yet, let's talk about how do we make the best life decisions, because we only have one life.
Yep.
So what is one powerful way to train our brain to make better choices, better life decisions?
Yeah. We just kind of gave it away. When you
Oh,
have your list of your values and beliefs, literally, this is your answer key to life. When you have a decision that needs to be made, you look at your values and beliefs. What do my values and beliefs tell me to do? This is your North Star. This is, I mean, this is everything. And that's why I think it's important, when I speak or when I coach and I ask people, are you clear on your values and your beliefs? And people just kind of give me like well, kinda. And I'm like, great. I'm going to give you 5 minutes and I want you to write it down in explicit detail. People can't do it. They don't have as much clarity as they think that they do. And so it's important to take the time and energy through micro journaling, just 5 minutes every day, starting to uncover what's really important to me. Asking yourself questions like, what are some formative experiences that I've had in my life? What about that was formative? Was it that you were part of a group? And that's a huge part of what you value and believe. Was it that you made a difference in somebody's life? Was it that you took risk and you put yourself out there? And those clues will start bubbling up, but it's the first thing I do with every single one of my coaching clients is we come up with those 10 beliefs. And now anything that you're struggling with, when you reference your beliefs, it tells you exactly what you need to do.
Okay, can you give us an example? Perhaps one of your clients' examples. Like let's say when someone gets stuck, it happens all the time, right? I feel stuck, I don't know what to do. Maybe give us an example. Let's say someone, is currently feeling stuck right now, and he or she look at the beliefs, and the values, and what would that look like in real life?
So, okay, here's an example. One of my coaching clients, super smart, really together, successful, but she's just like, I cannot get a handle on my health. And she was in the nursing industry, and she's like, anybody should really know, but for some reason I can't just make these changes. So I had her write out all of her beliefs. So one of her beliefs, it was really important for her to live up to her full potential. So what she realized was, and I had her write this out, when I'm not getting good sleep, when I'm not moving my body regularly, when I'm not fueling myself well, it is impossible for me to live up to my full potential. And so in order for me to be the best leader, the best mother, the best version of myself, I need to be getting good sleep. I do need to be fueling myself well. I do need to be getting movement. Another one of her beliefs was that she really believed in taking care of others. And then when she reflected on that belief, where she's like, okay, if I believe in taking care of others, why am I not on that list? How is it that everybody else is on that list but me? Why do I not deserve to be on this list? Another one of her beliefs was being a role model for not only her husband, but her 2 kids. And she realized, if I say that's what I believe, I am not being a good role model to my kids because they're seeing what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And so when you can actually make the connection with a desired behavior and how it's a way for you to practice your beliefs on a daily basis. And your beliefs, there's a big difference between saying like, I want to, I should, I'm supposed to. You're trying to push yourself to do something. When you tap into your values and beliefs and sense of purpose, you are being pulled. It's something that you just know innately. There is a sense of internal wisdom and knowing that's not something that's intellectual. You're really tapping into your soul. And that's why soul science is such an important part of my framework, because when you start with body science, you get your chemistry working well, you got your brain functioning online, then you tap into your soul science. Okay, now that my body's working, my energy's good, I'm resilient. Who and what should be getting my full and best energy? What's really important? And now by that time, when you get to step 3, brain science, your brain is already in a positive mindset. You're already accessing positive emotions. The brain just kind of falls in line. But how often do we start with the brain? I just need to think differently. I just need to choose a different emotion. It's not that easy, because chemistry plays a big part of it. If you're not really clear on your values and your beliefs, it's easy to get stuck in being reactive, being a little bit more pessimistic. We lose our grit and we lose our resilience.
So yeah, I remember you talk about on your profile, you talk about 3 brain-based reasons people get stuck. So can you just quickly share, what are the 3 reasons people get stuck?
Yeah. Okay. First reason, primitive caveman brain. Again, we're trying to change too much. We're exposed to stress. We are overwhelmed. We are burned out. We are in survival mode. And survival mode means primitive caveman brain is in charge. Negative, pessimistic, lazy, does not like change, does not want to put in a lot of effort, stuck in fear. It's like primitive caveman brain just wants to stay in the cave where it's safe. Don't put yourself out there. Don't take risk. Don't rock the boat. And so when primitive caveman brain is in charge, we're stuck. He doesn't want to do much. He doesn't want to put himself out there. So again, changing our chemistry and our biology to get primitive caveman brain to just chill out, to relax, so that we can access prefrontal cortex. Now we're talking logic, reasoning, decision making, setting goals. We're talking about willpower. Primitive caveman brain does not have any willpower. And what he does is actually exhaust your willpower all day, every day, because your primitive caveman brain is all about these very base urges. It's all about the quick fix, the short-term solutions to long-term problems. So that's one of the brain-based reasons why we get stuck. Another one of these is burnout. And just like I say, stress is not something that just happens in your head. Burnout isn't something that happens in your head. So when the stress in your life increases, that also increases the demand for energy in order to meet those stresses, whether that's physical energy, emotional energy, mental energy, spiritual energy. So stress goes up, demand for energy goes up. Okay, Joyan, when you're super busy and really overwhelmed and barely hanging on, what happens to your sleep?
Can't sleep.
Yeah. What happens to your nutrition?
Pretty poor.
Yeah. What happens to your workout and movement?
Don't feel like doing it at all.
Okay, now guess what the top 3 forms of energy recovery available to the human operating system are.
Sleep,
Yep.
exercise, and
Yeah.
nutrients.
Bingo. Bingo. So burnout is a biology problem. It's an energy management problem. And our body and our brain are hardwired to try to conserve as much energy as possible, because our distant ancestors, energy was scarce. You had to work hard to get it. So we're still hardwired, expend the least amount of energy possible. So when we're overworked, overwhelmed, overstressed, overstretched, overbooked, we're medicated, we're just in survival mode where you're like, I can't give anything extra. I'm completely burned out. That's another brain-based reason why you're going to stay stuck. And then the third brain-based reason why it's easy to get stuck is you're not clear on your values and your beliefs and your purpose. You're not clear on direction, priorities, boundaries. You're just checking boxes, feeling unfulfilled, thinking more, I must not have enough. More, I must need more. I must need a higher title. I must need a bigger house. I must need a nicer car. Then I'll be happy. But happiness is an inside job.
Yes, yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing the 3 reasons people get stuck. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is something that we haven't touched on, which is confidence. And certainly I can tell that you are super confident, and I love your energy. Even it's late for you, you are still like full of energy. I couldn't tell that it's actually your late evening. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is confidence, because confidence feels like something that you are either born with or not, right? You either have or you don't, right? So why do you say confidence has a formula first and foremost, and
Yeah.
and how have most of us learned it backwards?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that is so true that we see people who are confident and you're like, oh God, that must be nice. But I'm sure they've just been confident this whole time. And I'm not a confident person. I'll never be confident. Confidence is a skill, just like any other skill. And a skill requires action and practice. And what we get backwards is we think we have to feel confident before we can take action. But what research shows is confidence comes from taking action. So you have to take action first. And what you're doing is you're creating self-efficacy. You're showing your brain, I can do this thing. And that's what creates the confidence. So confidence requires doing. And I like to share the perspective of confidence is really the transfer of belief from one area of your life to another. So growing up, Joyan, I was the klutziest kid. I knocked out my front tooth. I had stitches in my head twice before the age of 5. My hips were deformed, so my toes turned in, and I had to wear these corrective shoes that were like these big brown leather man shoes. They were horrific. I was always chosen last in Fayette. I was, and I had red hair and freckles, and I just was not a very confident person. What ultimately happened, I'm going to skip ahead. So, my mom was like, oh, honey, you need some coordination help. So she signed me up for dance class because she was like, you just need help. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. So I started doing dance. Ultimately, in the 90s, when I got to college, that led to me teaching fitness classes, but I wasn't stepping into fitness because I was athletic. I was the klutz. For me, it was an extension of my dance background. So I was like, oh, I've got skills moving my body, dancing. Teaching fitness classes is kind of this same thing. And over time, I started to become more confident in my physical capabilities. And for me, that was really the game changer of take an area of your life where you do feel like I'm pretty good at that, you know? And how can you take that confidence and apply it? So it might be you're a really great chef. Okay, well, what makes you a really great chef? Maybe it's the fact that you're willing to play and experiment and try things. Okay, you're good at being playful, experimenting, and trying things. You can do that in any area of your life. That's not just reserved for cooking.
That is so freaking powerful. I never thought of that. Like confidence is a transfer of belief. Because I'm sure we all have, no matter who you are, where you are, what you are pretty good at something, right? And if you could transfer that a skill set or confidence in the area to a new area of your life that you want to, it's totally
Yeah.
possible. I love that. Love that.
Okay, now, second level
Huh.
of transfer of belief from one area of your life to another. If you go back to this list of my top 10 beliefs, this is what gives me supreme confidence. When I tap into this sense of knowing and wisdom, this gives me more confidence than any human has any right to have, honestly. But I know what I believe. I know what's important in my life. And when you know those things, it's almost like you can't unknow it. And this is really what I'm driven by. Again, my top belief is I believe in taking risk, trying new things, and continuing to learn and grow. That one belief gives me the confidence and the courage to just be like, try it. Give it a shot. You could be great at it. You might suck at it, but you can practice and you can improve. And so being tapped into what we believe is such a powerful sense of confidence and your sense of purpose, which
Yes.
ultimately brings joy.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing so powerfully. So, is there anything else that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you before we end.
I mean, this has just been such an awesome conversation. And when you say like you can feel my energy of like, this is really my passion. The reason why I study the brain and the body is that as human beings, in some ways, we make no frickin' sense whatsoever. And then in other ways, we make a whole lot of sense. And it's really all about discovery and growth. And I love that process. And I love taking other people on that journey as well, because ultimately, a really good day is a day where you feel like what you did had meaning and purpose. And that's something that we're all capable of doing. But a lot of us weren't taught. We didn't learn that in elementary school. We didn't learn it in college. I love helping people get that clarity, which then creates direction, accountability, fulfillment, joy, confidence, resilience. It just affects our lives in so many ways. And I do have a tool that I would love to share with your audience. Again, of like, since we weren't really taught how to do this, I have a 7-day process that just day by day helps you to kind of get some clarity and helps you to start uncovering values, beliefs, purpose. It's called the Clarity Code. And if you go to jennyevans.com/bestlife, it's a totally free download. It is jam-packed with some of my most powerful tools. And I promise you, if you just spend a little bit of time with this on a daily basis, it's a game changer and it's a life changer.
Thank you so much for that. Wow, that sounds, yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm gonna go ahead and download right after we end this episode.
Well,
So,
and I'd love to know like
yes,
what you uncover and what you learn and your thoughts. I'd love to know.
for sure. I will share this. Of course, I will put the links in the show note below. But before that, before we end, we always end with you're gonna love this. We always end with our final 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
The first question is what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
Nobody knows what they're doing.
I love that.
We're all making it up. Everybody's making it up as they go along.
Yeah, so true. That's funny. If you could relive one day of your life, one day do over, which day would it be?
Joyan. I just because it's been a long time, I'd love to redo the day my daughter was born.
Wow, it's beautiful.
I mean, so much of it is etched into my mind, but I'm sure there's other pieces that have gotten a little fuzzy.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's beautiful. Now, if you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Singing,
Huh?
I am the worst. It's funny that I use my voice as
Uh-huh.
a speaker for a living.
Yeah,
I cannot control it when it comes to singing.
I love it. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, are you learning it or is it something on your list?
Funny that you ask. I just signed up for singing lessons. They start next week. And I have told the instructor, I'm like, you are not going to believe how bad I am. So I'll keep you posted.
Yes, I'm gonna have you back on the show and let you sing. Yeah, you're gonna sing for us. Now you're gonna be a superstar. You know how to dance. Now you're learning how to sing. You're gonna be a
I'm going to get there.
yes. Right. The next question is: if you could instantly solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
Oh, that we could be good to each other.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all need that. Right. The last question is: what brings you the greatest joy?
Oh, right now it's connection. I love my community, my friends, my family, surrounded by people who love to have great conversations about things that matter. And that just so energizes me.
Yeah, so true. Thank you so much
Yeah.
again. And this is what exactly, this is why we are doing this podcast because it's all about connections and, helping each other grow. And so thank you so much for that, for your time. And tell my people where they can find you. I know your website, but tell them if they want to work with you, do you offer like one-on-one coaching or do you do like group coaching? How does it work?
Yeah. You can find everything you need at jennyevans.com. But in addition to being a keynote speaker, I do one-on-one coaching. And then I also have a program that's just for women. It's called Soul on Fire. It is a mastermind group coaching and community that's designed to just help women up level every aspect of their lives.
Why not, man?
This is a great question, and I went round and round about that. First of all, research shows that women do have a higher level of stress because they are carrying their professional workload, or even if you don't work outside of the home, but they're also carrying more of the mental and emotional workload of running a household, childcare, taking care of parents. This is not a political statement. This is a historical fact that the world has been created by men initially, a lot of white men, to benefit men. And women still do not have, in many places, the same rights. They don't make the same amount of money. They don't have the same leadership opportunities. So besides all of that, I also like a space where women can come together and there's a sense of understanding of what it's like to maybe be one of the only in a leadership position, or working in a male-dominated industry, or the stresses and challenges of trying to do it all. So that's why it's just for women. So sorry, fellas. But if you've got any women in your life that you care about, they should join Soul on Fire.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I love that initiative. Thank you so much for doing this for us. And guys, I know you love today's episode because you are listening to the very end. So go follow Jenny, visit our website, download the Best Life tool that I'm gonna download right away. I'll put all the links in the show notes below. Make sure you check it out, and remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you, and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag findjoyjoyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.